Well, what an exciting time you've come to Ford to now I see what's happening at this time for us for the auto show, but also all the work that we're doing. And so we're really glad to have you here. I know you're coming from a lot of different regions, a lot of different areas, a lot of different interests, a lot of different interest levels in terms of what we're going to talk about. So I hope you are enjoying the auto show and we're able to see some of the great products and learn more about our exciting plans for the next couple of years. At first glance, all the great news about Ford seems like, boy, you've got it all done, it's all locked up, you must be, sitting back and resting because it's been pretty easy, and you're on easy street now. But while we're profitable and our new global products are selling well and economic conditions are improving, there's still no easy street when it comes to automotive. We're pleased with the progress that we've made, and we know we have a lot more work to do. So I want to spend this morning talking about several overarching sustainability issues and to share with you how Ford is thinking about these broader challenges that we're facing in the future. So I'll start first with our definition of sustainability. That's something that we use a lot around here at Ford, and I know when I first came into this job, my family would always ask me, what is sustainability all about? What does it mean? And now over the course of the last few years, a lot of people have focused a lot about it, and what we see at Ford is a key objective for our company, and we're enabling mobility for over 100 years through the cars and trucks we manufacture. So our sustainable mobility is really about meeting the needs of today without compromising the future. So we know every action we take today is going to have consequences later on. So when we consider sustainable mobility, we look at three principal factors. One is financial. We've got to make a profit to satisfy our shareholders. We need to make product investments, and we have to produce our product. Recently, we've made a lot of progress here, but this is really a subject that we can talk about in another day. It's not really the focal point of what we're about. But another important circle here is the social. We have to contribute to society as a whole. And this includes such items as product safety, human rights, emerging markets, and working conditions. So there's a lot in here, and a lot you're going to hear more about, because as we tackle some of the challenges in the world, and we'll talk about what they are, this is really a new area for a lot of people who don't realize that automotive is so engaged in here. And the third factor, of course, is environmental stewardship. And the key factors here include addressing the challenges of energy security and reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So this overall approach to sustainability is guiding our very specific product actions as well as what we do in our facilities. And so I want to focus on some of those specific actions now, starting with energy. And I want to ground everybody in terms of what this is all about. But the world's appetite for energy is expected to grow by nearly 50% over the next 25 years. And that's going to require an annual investment of more than $1 trillion to expand the energy infrastructure. So that's something you don't really hear much about. We all know that the energy demand is increasing, but the infrastructure to support it isn't there, and there's going to be huge investments to make that happen. Compounding this challenge is the concern that nearly 2/3 of the world's oil, natural gas, and coal reserves are located in just 8 countries: Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, UAE, Russia, China, and the United States. So meeting this growth will require free and flowing markets. And of primary concern is that a slowdown in energy investment, this is to invest in the infrastructure, similar to what was experienced over the last couple of years in terms of all our financial markets and everything else, could really constrain the energy supply and hinder economic growth and reduce access to energy by low-income households. So unless the spending is done, we might not be able to get the energy where it needs to be. So not surprisingly, the concerns over energy security often focus on the role of the transportation sector. So on the next slide here, we have what transportation oil dependence looks like. In 2009, more than 94% of the energy that was used to move light-duty vehicles across the U.S. came from crude oil, and 1/3 of that was imported from OPEC. So globally, nearly 1 billion cars consume about half of the world's oil supply, and the OPEC countries control more than 70% of the global oil resources. Automobiles are particularly susceptible to energy supply disruptions, and the oil price volatility, because of the transportation sector dependence, really is a factor in our business. So when we see the prices of fuel fluctuate, we see our sales fluctuate. Either people are trying to buy more fuel-efficient vehicles or they're less concerned about that. So with those kind of numbers, it's easy to see why we're so focused on improving the fuel efficiency of our vehicles around the world. Better fuel efficiency and alternative forms of energy, like electric power, for instance, can really make an impact on decreasing the global need for oil. So that's why we've introduced the EcoBoost engine that improved the fuel efficiency by as much as 20% and decreased CO2 emissions by 15% versus our larger displacement engines without sacrificing any performance. And that's why we offer the EcoNetics technology. This is a collection of features designed to help customers equip their cars with technical equipment specifically aimed at greener and more fuel-efficient motoring. Features such as the Ford Eco Mode and the Smart Regenerative Charging have been introduced widely in the Ford products. And that's why we're introducing a family of electrified vehicles, including hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and pure battery electric vehicles, as you heard us announce yesterday at the Auto Show news conference. So I hope you're all familiar, and maybe you've had a chance to see some of these products. Really a fascinating display that we have set up that will focus people's attention on what the future looks like. So our bottom line is developing these technologies will allow us to deliver affordable fuel economy for millions, and that's how we can help make a difference. And I think that's what's really unique about Ford's message, is that we recognize these advanced technologies are needed, but we also know that if they're not affordable, no one's going to be able to buy them. And so the challenge is, how do you introduce them, how do you drive those costs down and still be able to offer the other products that people want to have? And so I think that's really important to keep that balance. We can do, all of us, any manufacturer in the world can do one or two or a handful or 1,000 of a particular vehicle. The challenge is to make these relevant for millions of people and make it affordable for millions of people. And so while increasing our fuel efficiency in our product lineup will also have a large impact on energy, we're also mindful of the need to reduce energy use in the production of these vehicles. And since 2003, global energy consumption in our facilities has decreased by 29% in total and by 14% of vehicles produced. So you can say, oh yeah, sure, your energy use went down, but you're making less vehicles than you used to make. We also look at the metric on a per unit basis, and so we've also driven that down. And when you consider our annual energy cost exceeded $600 million, these savings are quite significant to both the bottom line as well as to the environment. So the added benefit that by reducing the energy use, we've also reduced CO2 emissions by 20% since 2003. That's on a per vehicle basis. But energy is not the only environmental concern we're faced with. When we talk about the need to conserve resources, we also need to consider the global concerns over water in terms of both availability and quantity. I believe this is going to be the next really serious challenge. And we've all been focused on CO2, but we know today 1.2 billion people globally have no access to clean water. Global water consumption has been increasing at more than twice the rate of the human population growth, and that's set to triple in the next 50 years. So at this rate, the world will be using over 90% of all available fresh water within 25 years, which is just really a shocking statistic. So globally, many regions will likely be subject to peak water, and that's the point at which the rate that the water resources are being consumed is higher than the rate at which the supply is being replenished. So the energy intensity of water is also going to increase, owing to declining water quality and an increase in the distance that we're going to have to move the water from where the source is to where consumption is. So it's clear that addressing the water challenge will require innovation and commitment. And that's why at Ford we've joined the Water Disclosure Project and why we have our own water management initiative to focus on water conservation in all of our facilities and our processes worldwide. So it's going to take innovative solutions to deal with the water issue, which touches the economic, the environmental, and the social concerns as well. In 2000, Bill Ford announced Ford's Global Water Management Initiative with a target of a 3% year-over-year reduction in water use. And since that time, our global operations reduced water consumption by more than 62%, or over 10.5 billion gallons of water. So last year, Ford became a founding responder of the CDP Water Disclosure Project, which will help us to assess water use and the related water risk. we're implementing projects at our facilities to reduce their impact on water as well. For example, I'll show you some of the things that we're doing in our plants. At our Cleveland casting plant, where we produce our EcoBoost engine, we have an aggressive program to reduce water usage that resulted in a 26% reduction in 2008 and another 35% reduction in 2009, saving more than $1.2 million in city water costs. And at our Hermosillo stamping and assembly plant in Mexico, water consumption per vehicle had been reduced 34% since 2000, with 65% of wastewater being recycled for in-plant use and local irrigation. And this was really important to us because when we came into this area, it's pretty much a desert region, and we put in an assembly plant, which people loved because they wanted the jobs. But we were taking a lot of the water away from the people, and we said, we want to double our production. What are we going to do to the water supply? So this is the balance that we have with the social, the financial, and the environmental. We went in there, built a wastewater recycling plant, able to produce double the amount of vehicles and not use any more water, in fact, return more water to the community. And we have other things like the membrane biological reactor that treats the water, and we implemented this in Chihuahua, Mexico, in Chennai, India, and in Chongqing, China. And this system uses an ultrafiltration membrane. It's a process that uses a reverse osmosis to make 55% of the plant's wastewater suitable for high-quality reuse within the plant's processes. And the treated water could also be used for irrigation and bringing to 65% the amount of wastewater that can be recycled. Of course, the scarcity of resources is directly related to the use of those resources by a growing population. And the concentration of that growing population in specific areas, we call them megacities. These are cities that are over 10 million people, and the proportion of the population in urban areas worldwide is expected to rise from 48% in 2003 to over 61% by 2030. So that's 2 billion more people living in urban areas. So by 2015 alone, 4 more megacities will develop in Asia, bringing the world's total to 23. We're also seeing the development of mega regions and mega corridors. For example, the corridor connecting Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou contain more than 120 million people. And this growth is unprecedented pressure on our transportation networks. So clearly, the model that we have in the U.S., where nearly every licensed driver has a car or two, isn't going to work in these very crowded regions. So funding for transportation infrastructure is going to be a big challenge, and concerns over air pollution and congestion will only be exacerbated. Quite frankly, as we sit here today, we don't have a solution for the transportation dilemmas we find in the megacities. But we're actively engaged in understanding the issues to find these solutions. And we believe that intelligent transportation systems are going to help by using a variety of transportation modes and helping people connect to those transportation modes. Just sharing information is so vital. I think what we find is that people are more apt to use mass transit and other alternative energy or other transportation methods if they just knew about them. So one of the roles we can play is just being that aid, whether it's the in-vehicle communication devices we have or the ones we carry around in our hands, just getting that information to people will help. But we need to be part of this whole conversation and help shape that. We know that to keep up with the fast pace of global change, we need to challenge ourselves to keep changing as well. Fortunately, innovation holds great promise to help us find solutions and create new approaches for a wide range of issues. Over the last decade, innovation has been accelerating, particularly as a result of increasing connectivity and open architectures. For example, in 2001, the first iPod was released by Apple, and over the following 10 years, we saw 4 versions of the Touch, 6 versions of the Nano, and 4 generations of the Shuffle. And so Apple's open architecture resulted in more than 220,000 iPhone apps. And you think about the air, and you think about energy, and you think about where are we going. But what's so exciting to be part of this time is all the innovations and how we can solve these problems. And the very solutions are in a lot of people's heads in this room, and how we can make things better, how we can move people around and use the energy wisely, use the water in the right way. So it's really an exciting time. So